Sylvie of the multiple award-winning The Queen Sylvie Show. You want to expand and get noticed? Then come outside your box and into our world. Internet advertising has a real impact on global awareness and even sales, so let's make an impact together. Offering for a limited time advertising and sponsorship packages that excel your purpose. So contact Queen Sylvie or Smooth Tim for the exciting opportunities that awaits. Yeah. The Frida's Cleaning Service is a small family-owned business established in 2003. With over 17 years of professional, high-quality, and greatly satisfied service, the Frida's Cleaning Service will get the job done. Specializing in sanitizing your home, business, post-construction, and commercial cleaning, no job's too big or small. See for yourself and give us a call, 567-249-9172. La Frida's Cleaning Service. Our reputation is always spotless.
It used to be hard for this family to run and play in their yard. That big pooch left its business all over. Dad would spend his time cleaning up puppy messes. Now, I make sure the yard is clean so they can play without worry. Yes, there really is a poop fairy.
Do you have questions about buying or selling a home, not sure if you're qualified? Your local real estate agent, Antoinette Ware, is here for you. Do you live out of town, moving out of town, or looking for investment property? Well, let's work together and make it happen. Antoinette Ware can be reached at 419-917-6258. The name you know, celebrating over 20 years, serving Toledo and surrounding areas.
Are you tired of driving around a dirty car? Say hello to the ultimate solution for your car. Quick Auto Detail, home, work, or wherever. Their mobile car spa will clean and shine your car anytime and anywhere. Their products are gentle on your car's paint, and they use only the highest quality materials. Book your appointment now.
Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Hey, yeah, let's rock, everybody, and enjoy a beautiful Wednesday on Tim's Tidbits. I hope you have had a very productive week, and I hope so far this week, at least up until Wednesday, your days are going great, and if not, you will have fun watching tonight's show. We'll see if we can't put a smile on your face. Anyhow, hey, there's still things going on all around the world. I think most people are now focused on the Olympics, which has been very interesting. It's had its share of controversy. We'll talk about that a little later on down in the show. And, had some surprises and had some disappointments. I was really quite surprised, actually, that, Shikari got second silver in the 100 sprint, and now you don't hear too much about her. But, you hear a whole lot about the gold medals, and it's kind of funny how media will, as long as you're a winner, hey, you're cool with them, right? Unbelievable. Hey, in any regards, obviously there's still things going in Gaza, with Israel and Gaza and Humain, and it's still over there. We'll talk about that a little later on in the show, too. But anyhow, hey, let's get on to oh yeah, and I'm sure everybody has realized that what was that? Monday night, Kamala made her pick for VP, and we're going to talk a little bit about who is Tim Walz, her vice president pick, and we'll get into that later on in the show too. So there's going to be all kinds of interesting topics to cover, and I'll see if I can give you some perspectives from other than what the right-wing and left-wing media wants to shove down your throat. But anyhow, speaking of media, over the weekend, Donald was, I'm not sure if it's Atlanta. I could be saying it wrong. I think he may have been in Atlanta at a black journalist news conference and for an interview. And check it out.
Former President and current Republican nominee Donald Trump made some controversial comments about Vice President Kamala Harris while speaking to a convention of black journalists.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe that black voters should trust you with another 4 years.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that your definition?
That is
give me a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that?
That is the definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. Because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think,
that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I really
Republicans have
don't know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be, could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there.
What? So there you go. He has done more for the black person than any other president, including Abraham Lincoln and President Johnson. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody compares. That's unbelievable. Yeah, a reporter should put him on the spot. That was... But his response should tell you a little bit of everything, you know. Let's find out. Is Donald really a racist? I picked up a video, and this is a compilation, obviously, of some past interviews that Don has done. And in fact, one of them, he's actually making an argument in court based on, well, I guess maybe because preferences go to other races and ethnicity groups besides white people. Check us out.
After that terrible attack in Central Park, you spent a lot of money taking ads that seemed, Donald, to the casual reader insightful, like, wow.
Of course I hate these people. And let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me. And they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. And a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black, you're not black enough.
I want to find out. Well, then why you're approving for Indian? Why don't you approve it for everybody then? If your case is non-discriminatory, why don't you approve for everybody? You're saying only Indians. Wait a minute, sir. You're saying only Indians can have the reservations, only Indians can have the gaming. So why aren't you approving it for everybody? Why are you being discriminatory? Why is it that the Indians don't pay tax, but everybody else does? I do.
This guy what kind of a total idiot are you? Why is it only Indians can put gaming casinos on a reservation? And why can't white people or black people or Hispanic people or Orientals? Because it's a reservation, Don. That's the land that they were screwed into by the U.S. government, who you know little about. So no. So is Don a racist? Come on. And he judges people on the way they look. Speaking of the way they look, a friend of mine brought this to my attention. Brought it to Queen Sylvia and my attention the other day. And then I was like, yeah, that could be interesting. Some people wonder why Don looks like he's got such a broad ass on him. Like maybe, I don't know, he had the Brazilian butt lift or who knows what it was. But the actual fact is, Don wears Depends. They call him Donald Depends.
The diapers is not a joke. It depends. Diaper Don is trending, but it's based in reality. He would often soil himself on The Apprentice set. He's incontinent from all the speed, all the Adderall he does, the cocaine that he's done for decades, all that stuff has a laxative and it has an effect on your bowels, and his are uncontrollable. He's worn diapers since probably the 90s, but I saw it firsthand in the 2000s on Celebrity Apprentice in late 2000s, and we'd have to stop the show and change him, and that was Keith Schiller's job. He would take him off set, he would wipe him down. Our nickname for Keith was Wet Wipes. It's not a joke. It's happened several times. And you've seen it happen while he's in office. You've seen he was in the Oval Office with Erdogan, and you could clearly hear him sort of evacuating himself. He did it in front of Senator Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, at a press conference. So he does it, and he almost sits there like and unaware of it, And one time I saw Ivanka have to go kind of whisper in his ear, and then Keith came and took him off stage. He'll also do it in a rage, and this is where it gets really drug related. He'll start to freak out. One time there was the word arbitrage on a cue card, and he started screaming that the script department was setting him up. You're setting me up, and he just freaked out, and then very loudly evacuated his bowels, and you could smell it, and the guy who was holding the boom mic, was tearing up. So that's where the nickname, the SHIT show came from. That was the crew nickname for Celebrity Apprentice. So when you hear Diaper Don, it's not a joke. He tries to hide it. I'll give you one more fact. If you look up the video of him when he was doing the WWF thing, he tackles a guy on the ground outside of the ring, and you can clearly see the outline of the Depends in his pants. And that was back in the early 90s. So he's lost control of his bowels. He's lost control of his brain. That's who he is, Diaper Don.
Diaper Don. That's just disgusting that he's going to be walking up on you and he already shat himself. And anyhow, so... And I always wondered, I guess, I didn't put two and two together because I remember it might have been the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade or something crazy, that, they had a Trump hot balloon and it had a diaper on it. And I didn't catch it at the time that he has lost control of his bowels and wears Depends, so just in case. Anyhow, so good luck with Kamala while she's up there debating him. I hope he doesn't stink her out of the place. Anyhow, hey, that was Noel Castler, by the way. Yeah, he was a former aide for Trump, obviously, while he was on The Apprentice, and also transitioned with him over into the White House. But yeah, Noel Castler. So you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth when it comes to Donald and his Depends. Hey, also, speaking of Donald, obviously, he's out there promoting a Bible, and they're trying to, ever since he got his ear shot, which miraculously healed really super quick, by the way. Congratulations on that. How he's, almost compared to Jesus for some crazy reason. I don't know. And there are so many people, bringing religion into politics. And there's a pastor that had a little bit something to say about that. His name is Lauren Livingston. And I would love, because he shares my total viewpoint on this. I am a big believer, but there is absolutely really no place for religion in politics.
You bring politics into the church. You think that politics is spiritual stuff. Politics is of this world. You think it's your duty to be political about this, that, and the other. No, your duty is to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Don't be talking to me about my spiritual responsibility to vote. I don't have a spiritual responsibility to vote. I have a civic privilege. Don't be telling me that voting is spiritual. See, that's what happens when you don't read and pray. When you don't read and pray, you say, wow, there's a Bible out now that includes the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Isn't that wonderful? No. No, it's disgusting. It's blasphemous. It's a ploy. Are you kidding me? Some of you are so encouraged by that. Let me tell you something. The gospel is not an American gospel. It is the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. But Pastor, I bought the Bible. Really? You're telling me that you're encouraged because someone took a government, U.S. Constitution, a document that says we are of the people, by the people, and for the people, the people, the people, the people. And you have put it right beside the Word of God, which is eternal, unchanging, which says, of Him, by Him, through Him, to Him, from Him are all things, and you're going to put those together and be happy about it? God forbid. Now, you can get mad if you want to, but I'm going to tell you something. If you glory in that kind of thing, you don't have a prayer life. If you glory in that kind of mess, political mess, you do not know what the Word of God says. I'm going to rear back and tell you something. This is not my home. This world is not my home. I've been sent out just like the 70 were sent out. You've been put here and sent out just like the 70 were sent out. We've been put here as strangers and pilgrims, and we are passing through. I am just walking through. I'm just renting an apartment for a little while in this strange and foreign land. No, sir. My real citizenship is in heaven, from which we look for the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen. And he's saying it right. He believes just like I believe that, that whole idea of what Trump did with putting the Bible together, trying to make some ends, pay for his legal debts of sins. You're not supposed to sin against your fellow man. That's, whether you're taking advantage of him financially or you're taking advantage of someone in a physical way. And obviously we know that you're guilty of both of those. So, yeah. And, wow, I'm glad that pastor laid that out for you. Exactly. Again, Lauren Livingston. Anyhow, hey, let's move on and see what happened again over the weekend. Kamala picked her vice president. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. And it is governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. So I know a little bit about Tim Walz, not a whole lot about him. And hopefully we can fill in some gaps for you. And when he starts speaking on TV and we get to see a little bit more of him, we'll learn a little bit more. But here's a tidbit about him.
Kamala Harris named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Walz is a former school teacher and seasoned Washington lawmaker who has been credited with a new political insult against Republicans.
Yes, they're weird. They prove that every day. It's an observation.
Walz is viewed as more of a moderate figure, but someone who has picked up a number of progressive causes as governor. He's not somebody who has an extensive fundraising base or is someone who's very well known among the public.
Walz's ascension comes as Harris has consolidated support among Democrats after President Biden exited the race. Here's a look at what Walz brings as running mate in an election showdown with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Tim Walz is a proven winner among rural voters, and he's been very successful in Minnesota, which is a state that Republicans are trying to put onto the battleground map.
Thank you, Minnesota.
Walz really gives this everyman persona. He's somebody who's very comfortable with farmers. He's also someone who can appeal to voters in the suburbs and the cities.
Hey, Minnesota, Governor Walz here at the Great Minnesota Get-Together.
The 60-year-old governor didn't begin his career in politics.
He's someone who worked as a school teacher for more than 2 decades. He also spent time in the military So he really brings to the table a background of someone who had an entirely different life before he entered politics.
Walz was first elected to Congress in 2006, managing to unseat a 6-term Republican in one of the state's more conservative districts.
He was supportive of a number of issues related to agriculture. He also served as a leader on Veterans Affairs issues, given his extensive background in the Army Reserves. Walz was once given an A rating from the National Rifle Association. After the Parkland shooting in 2018, he quickly pivoted to support background checks, and the NRA disavowed many of his proposals.
After 12 years in Congress, Walz ran for Minnesota governor in 2018 as someone who could compromise with Republicans. He won by more than 11 percentage points.
Hello, one Minnesota.
Walz was reelected in 2022 and a year later oversaw a Democratic-controlled state legislature with a progressive agenda.
He helped get through a program to provide universal school meals for children. He was supportive of codifying abortion rights. He was supportive of the legalization of recreational marijuana. He was viewed as somebody who was very progressive on climate change, the environment, and also in promoting infrastructure spending.
The Harris-Walz ticket and its platform will take center stage in Chicago during the week of August 19th, when the Democratic National Convention convenes to cement their nominations.
Walz helps neutralize J.D. Vance's appeal to rural voters, especially those voters in the Midwest, some of the states that will help determine the election. We expect Walz to give an address at the Democratic National Convention. That'll really be his first opportunity to give the American people a window into his life, his career, his background, and that will be an important showcase for him before Democrats.
So yeah, it should be an interesting pick, you know. School teacher, 12 years in Congress, so he has a lot more than Vance. What has Vance been in there, a year and a half? Something like that? So he's very wet behind the ears, and Walz, obviously 12 years experience there, in 06, so he's got 6 years as governor of the state, so you know there's some obvious ability to work across the aisle, and I think that's probably what's most important, and I hope if Kamala and Walz are elected, that, you know, they both have that ability to reach across the aisle, and it doesn't matter what you're Republican, you're a Democrat, independent, or Tea Party, whatever you're bringing to the table, you can work together. It's not about you. It's about us. And I just wish you would remember that. Anyhow, I'd mentioned right at the very top of the show that Israel is, elevating some of the stuff. They did some bombings in Gaza over the weekend. I think it was Friday. Maybe Saturday, and 2 of the missiles hit a school. So obviously that causes a huge uprising with Hamas and the other militants that they're trying to get rid of in the apparently. So our tax dollars at work, we're supplying missiles so that they can destroy schools.
Yes, Darian, well, we're looking at a situation that happened in less than 24 hours after the bombing of yet another school in western Gaza City. That's in Sheikh Radwan district in the northern western part of Gaza City. And this time it happened to be 2 schools that turned into evacuation centers for the past months, sheltering refugees and displaced families from different parts of the Gaza Strip. Now, displaced families are not coming from particular areas. They're coming from different parts of the northern part of the Strip and Gaza City, fleeing the unpredictable bombs, the horror of the ongoing war. These schools are back to back. They are what separates between these 2 schools is the fence. One is a private school, educational facility. The other one is a public school, and they are back to back, filled with displaced families. They are eyewitnesses in the area describe these schools as overcrowded, the most overcrowded spaces available for displaced families in the central part of Gaza City. The bombing took place simultaneously at the same time. The 2 schools were struck relentlessly by multiple airstrikes, and several people reported to Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital. So far, what we're getting from the hospital, the only operational hospital in Gaza Center, Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital, 25 people transferred to the hospital, already pronounced dead. These are dead bodies were managed to be removed from the rubbles and from the dust that filled up the area into the hospital. There are more still under the rubbles. We're talking about overcrowded, packed space in two schools by the thousand. The number of people inside these two facilities by the thousand. We're looking at a situation, a context that is full of horror right now, bloodshed and more destruction. Something that is becoming, as we monitor how the situations have been evolving in the past few days, more of these evacuation centers are attacked systematically. The attention, it seems, by the Israeli military right now.
Okay.
Yes, they are still claiming that Hamas is using these civilian infrastructures, but never once has given this proof. And the biggest of all of these claims by the army was back at the raid at Al-Shifa hospital, the continued attack, saying that Hamas was using it as a command center, which still, to this day, there has never been proof of. There has never been information or pictures or any sort of intelligence that the army is citing to back up their claims. We've seen this time and time again in this war that has so far killed nearly 40,000 Palestinians. And the Israeli military continues to make these claims without providing the evidence to the public, the media, or anyone else.
Hamza.
Right. So, you know, and they said that before. They were digging up graveyards and looking for tunnels and displacing, you know, people's family from their burial sites. That's not the only stuff they've been. I would really like to know if our tax dollars are going towards those weapons that are going and targeting schools. What other BS smoke job you want to blow us about that there's Hamas in there or there are underground tunnels, or there's no excuse for killing civilians and especially children. That just makes me sick to my stomach. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. I'll probably get some backlash on that, but I don't care. Anyhow, hey, let's move on. And another thing we talked about right at the very beginning of the show was the Olympics is on. I've been watching them. I hope you have too. It's been pretty entertaining. Track and field, the swimming, the diving, the fencing. Obviously, if you really want to catch everything, though, just like previous year, they like to monetize everything now, don't they? You could go to Peacock and you could watch all the sports. Otherwise, we just get little glimpses of what they decide they want to show us. And what they did show us the first night of the parade, this is crazy. And this has really caused some controversy, but, you know, as I say, you know, I like to give you both sides of the story. So there was a float, there was a depiction of the Last Supper, and there was a lot of, let's call it Christian backlash with the representation, the characters that were in there representing this Last Supper. But apparently the person whose brainchild this was actually had an excuse.
It didn't take long for the reactions to the 2024 Olympics opening ceremony to descend into outrage, threats, and insults. And now one person in the middle of the storm is speaking out against the hatred. The Olympic Games always marks its beginning with an extravagant opening ceremony, the result of years of planning and coordination by a huge team of creatives representing the host country. Sadly, 2024 ceremonies were affected by bad weather, with torrential rain hampering some of the performances. Reviews were mixed, with critics arguing that the show felt patchy and thrown together despite its immense scale. But all of that paled in comparison to the vicious online backlash the show received from people who thought a certain scene in the opening ceremony featuring performers in drag was offensive to Christians. The scene in question saw drag queens and other members of the queer community gathered at a long dining table, which drew immediate comparisons to Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper. Images of the scene, titled Festivity, have circulated widely on social media, with commentators spouting their anger that the religious scene had seemingly been parodied and satirized. Even the French Catholic Church claimed it, quote, included scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity. However, despite early reports that The Last Supper inspired the segment, organizers have poured cold water on the comparison, claiming that the likeness was entirely unintentional. Instead, the scene was actually intended to be a recreation of the feast of the mythical god Dionysus, as represented in the painting The Feast of the Gods by 17th century Dutch painter Jan van Beelert. The director of the ceremony, Thomas Jolly, explained that the show he put together was intended as a reflection of the freedoms enjoyed by French citizens in modern society, saying, "I wanted to say that we're a big us, and last night there were ideas from the French Republic. There were inclusive ideas, ideas of kindness, of generosity, ideas of solidarity, which I think we desperately need." He also said that the eye-popping character dressed in blue is key to understanding the reference to Dionysus, which ties into Olympic history and French culture. He said, "There's Dionysus who arrives at the table. Why is he there? Because he's the god of feasting, of wine, and the father of Sequana, the goddess of the river Seine." Nevertheless, the organizers felt the need to offer an apology for festivity.
Clearly, there was never an intention to show disrespect to any religious group.
However, some of the performers in the segment aren't impressed with either the criticism or the apology. Hugo Bardon, a drag artist whose character appeared in festivities, said, "An apology means recognizing a mistake, recognizing that you deliberately did something to harm, which was not the case. What bothers people isn't that we're reproducing this painting. What bothers people is that queer people are reproducing it." And as many news outlets later reported, DJ Barbara Butch, who was central to the tableau in a blue dress and extravagant headdress, possibly representing Apollo, the Greek sun god, has been the victim of vicious online abuse since her appearance in the opening ceremony. In a statement posted on the DJ's Instagram page, Butch's lawyer wrote, "She has been threatened with death, torture, and rape, and has also been the target of numerous anti-Semitic, homophobic, sexist, and grossophobic insults." Pushing back against the vile hatred that her performance has faced, Butch and the lawyer have announced that they were filing multiple police complaints against those who have abused and threatened her illegally. In the caption that accompanied the post, Butch wrote, "Whatever some may say, I exist. I've never been ashamed of who I am, and I take responsibility for everything, including my artistic choices. All my life, I refused to be a victim. I won't shut up."
Interesting. So I guess it's all a matter of intention and perception. They're saying that that was not their intention and that a lot of people's perception was mistaken. So hey, take it for what it is. There's the other side of the story for you. Anyhow, hey, let's move on. And obviously, we know that it's a political season and all kinds of things are going on. And, they're calling Kamala out as, the borders are and how messed up the border is. And that's the reason for all the fentanyl coming into the country and, the rapists and the gang members and all this. It's all her fault. Nothing happened under the prior administration, but boy, did it fall apart, obviously, underneath Kamala. At least that's what they try to say. In any regards, there is something new out there. You've heard about the fentanyl, everything else. Well, there is something new coming out there. And I decided, let's blame J.D. Vance for this one. Because J.D.'s in Congress. And there was a congressional bill that came up that was to fund Border Patrol and also Customs, right? So you'd have more custom officials going through the things that are shipping back and forth through our ports coming across the border, as well as custom agents and Border Patrol agents to monitor some of this mess that you say Kamala created, but you're not willing to do anything about. So we're going to call this little product J.D. Vance's Pink Problem. Check it out.
It's a designer drug with a catchy name, pink cocaine, and it's turning up in more drug busts as well as in a lawsuit against Diddy. While the name of this mystery powder's color is accurate, drug experts say there's only a small amount, if any, of cocaine in it, and there's no way to know what other drugs and chemicals are inside. Law enforcement officials say pink cocaine, which is also known as 2C, is turning up in more drug seizures and in some cases is being trafficked by the notorious Venezuelan migrant gang Tren de Aragua. It's also marketed and trafficked in ways that make it a challenge for law enforcement since it's often sold in underground venues, says former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher, who worked undercover narcotics.
A lot of that involves around informants that give police information
that avail them the ability to get into these environments to make the observations and take effective police action against the perpetrators.
The bright-colored powder has been gaining in popularity among the nightlife set. Its swag factor went up when it was mentioned in a civil lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs as one of the disgraced mogul's alleged drugs of choice. It's often low in price, but high in risk, since users don't really know what they're ingesting, says Dr. Yalda Safai, a psychiatrist and public health expert.
Well, pink cocaine is a misnomer. The combination of the drugs are being used are not just cocaine, but rather a mix of MDMA, ketamine, even opioids such as fentanyl. So it's really a mix, and each one of them carries significant amount of its own risk.
Regardless of how dangerous the mixture is, the bright candy color and the cheap price are appealing to many potential users. Joseph Palomar, associate professor of population health at NYU Langone, recently published a study on this popular powder. He says if it hits the hip-hop world like Molly did, we'll be hearing about it a lot more and seeing the consequences.
Prevalence appears to be increasing, but it's a pretty new drug, so we don't know how popular this drug concoction is going to be in the near future. I do think it's going to be more prevalent, though.
That's right. So now you're a step ahead. You know all about pink cocaine, or as we will call it, it's all J.D. Vance's fault. That the new recreational drug is starting to hit the clubs and the streets. But I mean, that's amazing. You don't even know what it's in it, but you're willing to shove it up your nose. I don't get that philosophy whatsoever. But hey, yeah. Hey, yeah, you gotta think about that, don't you? Let's move on. And do you remember the name Edward Snowden? Edwin, he was the guy that worked with all the classified information, and he came out and was talking about the classified information. And I caught another little video that he did, and quite interestingly enough, you know, whether it's total bullshit or maybe it is not bullshit, but he's got something to say that could very well be true, and something that, yeah, we should really think about.
In my final position, working directly with the tools of mass surveillance, I can see anybody's emails. I can see what you're texting back and forth. You know, the guys that are working to the left and the right of me are turning their monitor to show me nudes of the wife of one of their targets. And they say, bonus. But then I see this picture. It was actually a video of a child in the lap of his father, and the, you know, it's like a toddler. They're smacking on the keyboard, and they don't realize what's going on. But it kind of glanced at the camera, and I felt like he was looking at me. I mean, this really shook me, because when we talk about surveillance, we're talking so much about abstraction. We're talking about things that don't feel real.
Right.
I realized that the machine, I was a technologist in the NSA, all of the different parts that I've been working with, all of the systems, they had stolen and were stealing not just one person's memories, they were stealing everyone's, everywhere, all the time, and they still are right now. And so I got up out of the chair, and, you know, I didn't try to burn down the NSA. I didn't, I've published 0 documents. I gave them to journalists, and there's a long, complicated thing in the book about how and why and where the lines are. But I wanted not to say this is the way the world should be. I wanted to give it to you. I wanted to say this is what's happening. And it really, guys, the question for you is, how do you want to live? We are today being used against the future. We're being used against our children. Everything we do now lasts forever, not because we want to remember it, but because we're no longer allowed to forget.
Interesting, yeah, that a target. Yeah, how do you become a target of the NSA? I mean, you know, yeah, what kind of a threat are you with your child on your lap playing the piano? Why would the NSA even give a shit? It's an amazing world that we live in. But we know that we're on film, we're being monitored all the time. You know, look around you as you step outside your house. Besides, hey, I'm in front of a camera right now being monitored but everywhere. And your phone calls, everything is, you know, open. and be just cognizant that, anybody could be listening anywhere at any time. Seems weird, seems kind of crazy, but that's the way it is. Hey, let's move on and get about ready to get the heck on out of here. And we're going to give away this week's Asshole of the Week. Well, that's crazy. And let's move on back to the Olympics. And maybe this is just a problem in between competitors, but it shows you exactly how really petty someone could be that should be a part of your team.
Simone Biles reveals she's been blocked by former teammate Michaela Skinner. Hours after the Olympic athlete made history with her team's gold medal win at the 2024 Paris Olympics, Simone seemingly references Michaela in a post on X, formerly Twitter, writing, "Oop, I've been blocked." In case you missed it, after she and her teammates picked up the gold on July 30th, the 27-year-old took to her Instagram to celebrate the victory, captioning a photo of Team USA, "Lack of talent, lazy Olympic champions." An apparent reference to Michaela's recent comments about the work ethic of USA gymnasts. After Simone posted about the block, her teammate Jordan Childs provided photo evidence, posting a shot of Michaela's Instagram profile on her Instagram story and writing, "When she blocks Simone." During Olympic trials, Michaela had made some comments about USA gymnasts in a since-deleted YouTube video criticizing their work ethic.
But besides Simone, I feel like the talent and the depth just isn't like what it used to be. I just noticed, obviously a lot of girls don't work as hard. The girls just don't have the work ethic.
She later apologized for the comments on her Instagram, insisting she meant no harm.
A lot of the stuff that I was talking about wasn't always necessarily about the current team, because I love and support all the girls that made it, and I'm so proud of them.
Simone seemingly commented at the time on Threads, writing simply, "Not everyone needs a mic and a platform." As for Simone's new post celebrating her team's win, the most decorated Olympic gymnast in U.S. history got tons of support from friends, fans, and teammates. Fellow Olympic champ Suni Lee writes, "Put a finger down if Simone Biles just ended you." While Jordan Childs says, "And that's on period." And Simone's husband, Jonathan Owens, chimes in with, "F around and find out."
Anyhow, yeah, isn't that petty? You don't make the team, so you're going to just sit there and, talk about everybody else's ass. Well, they won gold, team gold, and I believe they clinched a lot of other gold, bronze, and silver, so they don't suck as bad as you may think, Michaela. That's okay. Everybody has their opinion, right? And my opinion is that it's about time to get the heck on out of here and enjoy the rest of my Wednesday night. In fact, just maybe watch some of the Olympics. But in any regards, hey, I certainly appreciate you all tuning on in and spend a little bit of time with me on your Wednesday. I really do appreciate it. If you get some time, go to YouTube, and in the YouTube search engine, type in The Queen Sylvie Show. You'll get the results of all three of the shows that I'm involved in. That would be the Queen Sylvie Show, the Tim's Tidbits, and the Now You Know Show, which will be on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Hope you tune into that also. But otherwise, when you're on our YouTube site, on the Queen Sylvia YouTube site, please subscribe. I would sincerely appreciate that also. And otherwise, hey man, until next week, I am so out of here, and you all just enjoy the rest of your week, okay?
Thank you.